On today's show, bringing in Law Murray from The Athletic to talk about Kawhi Leonard. Is he 100%? Has he 100% done all of his mental preparation? We'll talk about all that and more in this series on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. He hits! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. We're making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know, what type of mental preparation have you done for this series? I'm curious what the fans have done. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And joining me, it's been too long. Law. It's been, what, a couple years since we've done this?
3 years.
3 years. Law Murray from The Athletic joining us. He covers the Clippers, based in LA, and everything that happens with the Clippers runs by you.
I've been there, man. I've been there. The social media engagement be lying to y'all. So, I appreciate you having me on there.
Absolutely. We'll talk about this series. We'll talk about the Clippers. This is make or break for the Clippers. Law just dropped a piece on The Athletic talking about the Griffin retirement all the way through to this era of the Clippers and what this means for this Clippers team. And we'll talk about the odds of the series. The Mavs are favored to start the series, which is new for this saga of these two teams. We'll talk about James Harden and some other things, but I got to start here because this is, the only thing you've probably thought about for the last couple days, maybe the week. Kawhi Leonard. We get the update from Lawrence Frank, who spoke to the media, which is like, imagine if Nico Harrison spoke this week, which just sounds like a very odd thing. Lawrence Frank said, about Kawhi Leonard, in terms of practice preparation, he's able to do all the mental preparation of it. The film study, the personnel review. He hasn't done any contact, and we'll just take it day by day. He also talked about, if we can't go, I feel good about the guys that we have now. Law, have you and I done the same amount of preparation that Kawhi Leonard has done for this series so far?
Kawhi's on another level. And so I feel like if Kawhi is out there, he does raise a floor. Like, there's some guys we can joke about that stuff with, but the way Kawhi thinks the game and the way Kawhi actually improves this team, like, he's the adult in the room.
Yeah.
So, like, even when he's not playing, but he's like on the bench, I feel like the Clippers are better. Like, they lost once of their they win an 8-game stretch where they lost once, and that was when Kawhi left the team. After the East Coast trip to go back to LA because that's when his knee was flaring up. They were in Sacramento and they lost that game. And I was like, well, of course they lost that game. Kawhi wasn't on the bench, and there's a sense of him just not being there. It makes an impact. So I can't say I've matched Kawhi's level. I can always strive to be better, Nick.
I think you and I have not done any physical preparation for this. I don't know if you've been working out.
I've absolutely done physical preparation. I'm a call cap on that right now. Your boy's been in the gym, man. Like, been in the gym, been in the lab, suits dirty and everything.
How's the jumper?
The jumper is actually pretty good, but I haven't even been. I've been just working on the body, bro. Like, this is when you grind, like. Go from training camp, preseason, and I've been to 32 road games, all the home games, all the shoot arounds and whatnot. Like, I think that you've seen the media members that we call our colleagues, right? Like, not everybody prioritizes taking care of themselves, and then they get to the end of the season, they burnt out. Yeah. I'm ready to go for however long this thing lasts, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months. So I'm dead ass about that too. Like, we need to put that energy out there. Like, people need to do a better job taking care of themselves. And I've been about that action, boss.
He's ready and prepared for this series. And it's wild to me that these series can go 2 weeks. Like, we're talking about game 1 starting on Sunday. I think game 6 could be like the next Friday. It's wild how long these things last.
Yeah.
Does Lawrence Frank's update the other day, does that change what you thought about Kawhi's readiness for this series?
It does. I mean, he literally said he's going to be questionable. I think a lot of people wanted a status,
Yeah.
and Lawrence gifted that at least, but the updates are just they feel conflicting. That's all I'm going to really say about it. Like I don't want to, I don't want to go through a he said with things, but you got Lawrence saying that he's not taking contact. You got T. Lue saying he's going through a quarter of the practice. You got players literally shutting down at the very mention of Kawhi and his level of participation and what
Multiple.
they've seen. Like there is a messaging campaign regarding Kawhi Leonard. And all I know about Kawhi is that he's going to be in the Olympics and he's got some fire new kicks to debut as soon as he hits the court again. So
Mm.
it's all just a phenomenon. I don't want to say it's a circus, but it's certainly a thing that needs to be studied. And I'm confident, not wholly confident. I shouldn't be confident about anything regarding this team, but I'm confident that at least this time next week when I'm in Dallas, I'm not dealing with any of this crap. Like we can talk about whether the series is tied or who's up 2-0 and how things change going from California to Texas besides the Texas. But um until game one begins, we got to deal with the silliness. And I think Lawrence, he kind of added to it. I don't think there's a whole lot more clarity except for the fact that Kawhi is dealing with inflammation in his knee and that his status for the beginning of this series is up in the air. And whether or not he's able to play, that's one thing, but whether the quality of his ability to play, that's what everybody wants to know. Is
Yeah.
he going to get to that point? Because that is going to be the swing factor. That's the thing that eliminated the Dallas Mavericks in 2020 and 2021. It was Apex Kawhi.
Absolutely. Oh, I will not forget that game 6 in 2021 where he just went, I mean, one of the greatest playoff games I've ever watched to see him go off for that. And we've talked a lot about this week, what if Zubats gets played off the floor? Will they play that small ball unit? And Kawhi has been the 5 in those small ball units a lot of the time. Talk about his importance in those lineups defensively, especially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a stickler with the positions. So I know some people consider him a 5. Like that's what I enjoy about basketball is it's subjective. It isn't open to a lot of interpretation. We can look at a whole bunch of shit, and then you'll ask Kawhi, "What position are you playing?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know. What position you think I'm playing?" Like
It's like they
that's
don't care about
how
that stuff
that.
sometimes.
Nah, like I feel like what's funny is Kawhi will be like, I don't know what position I've been these last few years. And then I'll be like, Kawhi, you're a power forward. You know why? Because you refer to centers and you refer to point guards, and you ain't any of those.
Yeah,
And we
right.
all know what you guys don't have this year that y'all had way too many of in the previous couple of years. And it's a power forward. You're playing that spot. That's probably why Kawhi's knees flared up now because he's been
Man.
playing a position where he's banging bigger bodies on a more consistent basis. That's been his sacrifice. We talk about sacrifice with this team, and it's been related to your level of touches or your level of scoring or even starting at all with some of these future Hall of Famers. Well, Kawhi, he's been the guy who's had to level up a position. But I'll tell you what, I consider Russell Westbrook, who everyone says, everyone knows he's a Hall of Fame point guard, an MVP point guard. But damn it, he's been the one guarding centers.
Yeah.
You know, and that has actually been the spur of many comebacks. It's been something that the Clippers have used to change games significantly because that dude not only is physically strong and hyper athletic, even for a year 16 player, let alone a guard, but he has the respect of the officials. So you can be more physical. Now you're at the time of the year where, we weren't seeing times in the first half of the year when everybody was tripping about the scoring. But
Yeah.
now that everybody, there was a shift in the middle of the season, but that shift also happens in the playoffs every year.
Yep.
And so I want to see how the Clippers defend if they go small, because you are allowed to be more physical in the playoffs. You saw those referees that got announced. You saw how some of them. There's only one referee that likes to blow that whistle, and we all know who that guy is. Chris Paul's not in the series, but like that's going to be a big part of these small lineups. But if Kawhi's not there, T. Lue's not going to want to go small as much because the
Yeah.
Clippers, their Achilles heel is rebounding on the defensive end. And the Mavericks are selective about their offensive rebounding. Like they've had games where it's changed a lot for them, but for the most part, those dudes are so spaced out, not mentally, just physically, that their offensive rebounding, their crashing just isn't consistent. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that changes in this series. But the Clippers, they rely on Kawhi to be there in small lineups to give them a semblance of a rebounding presence. They're going to be incentivized to stay big as much as possible.
Yeah, I really think they are. I think that's a big difference for this version of the Clippers compared to the past versions of the Clippers that the Mavs have faced before. And the Mavs are bigger now than they were before too. Coming up, is this make or break for the Clippers in just this first round series? We'll talk about that with Law Murray coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested, and you've done all that. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, and that's Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. You've got to go check out, see what kind of stuff that they have available. They're the number one finance destination designed for producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. I use it to go check out where things are going to see, all right, should I be looking into this? Should I be finding this? There's so many different financial things. You just have to find one place that puts it all in the same place for you and puts it in front of you and makes it easy to understand as well. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments and things like that. Community over 90 million users each month. Their real strength is helping you find your way to financial success. So for a comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. That's Yahoo Finance, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. Again, go to yahoofinance.com. Also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. The Mavs and the Stars killing it right now. Killing it. If you want to put down some money and have some fun with it right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. So it's the best time to get started if you want to. We're about to talk about the Mavs being favored in this Clippers series. The Mavs are a minus 134. So you have to bet $134 to win $100 on that. The Clippers are plus 110. So you bet $100 and you could win $110 on the Clippers if they win this series. So the Clippers are not the favorite right now, which is kind of wild. So check out that stuff on FanDuel. You can also bet like how long do you think the series is going to go? 7 games is plus 230 right now. 6 games is plus 190. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and make your bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Please gamble responsibly. Kawhi has played the most games he's played since 2017. He was on the Spurs. It was kind of like the last season before all these injuries started to pile up for Kawhi. Something's shifted and changed. They decided, all right, we're going to play him back-to-backs. We're going to play him and Paul George more this season. What was the calculation for the Clippers to make that change, and do you think it's paid off?
The Western Conference. Simple as that. I think at the end of last season, and the Clippers weren't the only team with this. We saw the player participation policy. We've seen a lot of guys shift in terms of how they manage their players. But for the Clippers specifically, I think they were embarrassed by how last year went. They were also just snake bitten. They managed Kawhi all year, which it wasn't because Kawhi was chilling. Dude was coming off a torn ACL, right? So it didn't make sense for him. And we know he wasn't at full strength. He was not, great in the first half of the year. He was good. It was encouraging as hell to have him on the floor. But he plays 2 games and then misses 25 days because his knee flares up, gets back for 3 games, ankle turn, misses another couple of weeks. And then he didn't really get to playing like the Kawhi who they're paying for until like mid-January of last year. And then Paul gets hurt. Paul doesn't make it to the playoffs. Kawhi kills in the beginning of the playoffs. He doesn't make it to game 3. He's done. And by the end of the year, Lawrence Frank was like, we need to compete harder. And that goes for not just how the players approach things, It doesn't just go for how the coaches approach saying, nah, like they deferred heavily to medical. They were like, yeah, whole guys out back to backs. And it's like they know that this is the last good chance that they had. They pushed for a top 3 seed. They didn't get it, but that push was huge because look at the Western Conference this year compared to last year. Look at the fact that tonight in a play-in game between the Kings and the Pelicans, one of those teams with well over 40 wins is going to be eliminated, right? Look at how well those teams played this year. You can't tell me that they were bad basketball teams, but they're going to miss the playoffs. Why? Because the West was just better. The Denver Nuggets, they won the Western Conference last year with 53 wins. And you know what? Those 53 wins came with them absolutely taking the plug out for the last month of the season. And people thought that the Nuggets were sweet going into the playoffs. No one was picking them to win the championship because one, they hadn't done it before, and two, because over the last month they were barely over 500 team, but in reality, the Nuggets didn't need more than 53 wins because from mid-January on, they were number one in the West. They weren't pushed. The number 2 team was Memphis. And after everything that happened with Ja, no one took Memphis seriously. Number 3 seed was Sacramento. Hooray for Sacramento. You broke your playoff streak. Here's the defending NBA champions in round 1.
Like the same season this year.
It's been more intense this year, though. That's what I'm saying.
The Kings had the same success they had last year, and they're like
exactly. So the Kings went from number 1 in their division, number 3 in the conference, to now they're playing for their playoff lives tonight, right? Yeah. And they beat the Warriors. They ended their season after the Warriors did that to them in Game 7 of last year, the best first round series that we got out of all of them. And so if the Clippers took the same approach that they had in previous years, but especially last year, this year, they're in the play-in safely. And the play-in tournaments like Vietnam, man, you don't want to be in there. So like you go in the play-in tournament, and the Clippers had this experience back in 2022. You have double-digit leads, you lose, and then you don't know if your star player is going to be there for the last game. That's what happened to the Clippers. Lawrence Frank shows up morning of play-in game and it was like, so Paul's in health and safety protocols. We knew things were bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what the Pelicans are going through. They had a 10-point lead against the Lakers, and they wind up losing that game. And now Zion's not available for this Friday night, and Brandon just got back. So that's a horrible situation to be in. The Clippers, like, the contracts speak for themselves. You just can't take for granted that you're going to see these group of guys play again together.
Yep.
And that push, especially once they were 3-7 and fell into that whole post James Harden trade, which the Dallas Mavericks, they saw that right away, right? The fact that they had to push and compete just to stay in the right side of the bracket out west, that's what changed.
You dropped a piece in The Athletic about the end of Blake Griffin's career and how that has kind of spanned over into this era of the Clippers. You dropped this bar at the end of it. But this era led by Leonard and George, this championship window is closing, and this postseason is a point of reckoning. This is the last best chance for the Clippers to get it right. Is this series make or break for this version of the Clippers?
Yeah, you can't lose to the Mavericks after this. They've only won 3 playoff series.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. They've only won 3 playoff series with this group ever since Paul and Kawhi joined the Clippers. 2 of them again against the Mavericks, okay? So, and the third one was the only time they've ever in their franchise history won a conference semifinals, and they lost Kawhi in the middle of it. So they've been defined. Their best moments are still like, you've beaten Luka, and you managed to beat a 1 seed when your best player tore his ACL. They haven't won a playoff series at all in 3 years. To go, it would be 3 strikes and you're out, right? We all know, 2 years ago was a gap year because Kawhi was out. Last year, Paul didn't make it to the playoffs. Kawhi didn't make it through the playoffs. To go up against this team and lose to the guy that you've beaten, that would be damning. Even if they advance past the Mavericks, and let's say you get OKC or the team that beats OKC, but more than likely OKC. Well, this era started with that trade with OKC. Everyone loves to talk about how Shea is lapped at least Paul George and maybe Kawhi, and how the Thunder, they got to be a 1 seed, something the Clippers have never had in their franchise history. Well, again, the Clippers, they can beat a 1 seed. They did that 3 years ago. And it was sad that they did it and couldn't get to the conference finals with their fully healthy roster or even close, like just their main guys. Um, that was a year where playoff games were every other day. So they were burnt out by the end of that Phoenix series. They could have probably beat the Suns without Kawhi. That's how close that series was. But you can't beat OKC. And it's like, what does that say? The West is only getting better, Nick.
Yeah.
Guys are only getting older if you're talking about the Clippers. Contracts are the way they are. So the Mavericks are better. This is the most prepared the Mavericks have been. And you got to give the Mavericks credit 2 years ago. I mean, they didn't face the Clippers, and that's when Luka advanced. But damn it, I remember the Mavericks didn't have Luka to begin that series against the Utah Jazz. They ended that era. Have the Utah Jazz
Yep.
been in the playoffs? Did they change their head coach? Did they dump both of their stars? The Mavericks have been here before. They know that.
Suns too.
Exactly. Like after that Sun series, yeah, they kept the charade of Monty and DeAndre going, but Chris Paul never played a playoff game for the Phoenix Suns ever again. I mean, that's just, well, I guess you gotta talk about last year, but the team changed, right? Like guys like Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, the fabric of a finals run, like they
Yep.
didn't bring those guys back. They brought him back only to trade for KD. Like the era was different. Um, so I guess last year was a soft launch, but obviously no one is back from that 2021 team now except for Books. So um, the Mavericks, they understand what they're going up against. The Clippers, they know what they're going up against. The Mavericks, I think it would be a successful season just for them to win a playoff series, to beat the Clippers finally. I think people would be like, all right, you've made progress. They made
Yeah.
progress just making the playoffs after the bullshit that happened last year at the end of the year. So
Telling me.
the Clippers, that's not the case for them. Like they have to make it through the West. They got decisions to make with guys who are still good enough to warrant being paid. Simple as that.
The Mavs currently on FanDuel are minus 134 for the series, which means they're the favorite. Clippers are plus 110. So the Clippers are not the favorite right now. The odds are not in their favor. Should that be the case?
You know what? I think you got to give respect to how well the Mavericks played to end this year. I think you got to give respect to the fact that the Dallas Mavericks are healthy. They know who's going into this series. I feel like out of the 8, I don't care who wins these play-in games tonight in the 8-9s. We know that this is the best of the 8, the most compelling as far as who might win or not. It is a legitimate coin
for
flip.
sure.
And I mean, I think it's going 7. I don't know if these odds are discussing how long the series will go or the tenure of it. I mean, what we saw in 2021, I don't think you've ever seen in NBA history where the road team wins the first 6 games of a series just for the home team to win the last one. So these teams have seen everything. They've been everywhere. I mean, they were in the bubble in 2020. The series was literally not played in California and Texas. When I say they've seen and been everywhere, they've done that. And so if I was a betting person, yeah, like common sense would say the Mavericks are going to probably start the series better. They're going to probably steal home court advantage, and they're just playing better. It's how they're playing better. It's not like they've been lighting it up on offense. Like they've had the best defense in the NBA the last quarter of the season, and they're going to probably change how the Clippers play, whether Kawhi's there or not. So that's what you're betting on. What you can't say is, I don't know if Dallas has another level in the playoffs. I am betting that the Clippers will, both from a personnel standpoint, those players being able to lock in. I've seen the Clippers have not played well defensively. In fact, there was a stretch in March when Russ was out where only the Utah Jazz were worse defensively. But I also saw plenty of stretches where when the Clippers decided you weren't scoring. And when I'm not talking about for a play, although they've had to save games, they've had to win games with game-ending possessions with defensive stops. I'm talking about holding the Boston Celtics 6 minutes without scoring. That Boston team on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. I'm talking about when they had to come back in Cleveland come back, or not in Cleveland, but against the Cavaliers, come back against the Nuggets, when they embarrassed the Phoenix Suns. This is with Kawhi not playing. They were like, we're going to just end this early. And they were up 35-4 in the first quarter. So this Clippers team, I feel like they have another level. They don't want to hear from us this week. They've let us know about their BS performances in afternoon games and how they were, up and down defensively. They are telling us that it's playoff time and that they have another level. So we're about to see that.
James Harden kind of talked about that other level the other day. What's the best and worst version of James Harden you've seen on the Clippers?
Man, I've seen it all with James. I've seen it all. I've seen him be completely uninspiring, like literally as soon as he got there. They lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
The Dallas game they were up 12, only to be down like 32, right? Luka torched them, and it looked like this was going to fail right away. I mean, they did fail. Like, can we just be like, for real? They failed initially, and then they succeeded. And I think that is huge for this team. That was huge for James, because James kept saying, James had to be the guy, he was the pup with the fires burning around. You've seen that meme before, like telling everybody, hey, things are going to be okay. I just got to get in shape.
Fine.
Dude sounded like Homer Simpson on his first day, consistently telling us, hey guys, I didn't have a training camp. It's like, well, damn, James, why didn't you have a training camp? You was the one trying to get out. But this man was in shape. Okay. He was ready to play basketball. He just had to get integrated. The team had to put him in the right position. Russ, he went to the bench. That split things up. That's the thing. When they went to Dallas and they got smacked, the rotations were just bizarre. They were awful. It wasn't just because Russ and James were starting. Like, they were trying to play Bones and Norm off the bench at the same time. And that was the last time Bones was in the rotation, right? So James he spearheaded the number one offense in the league for a 2.5-month stretch where they went 26-5. He was hitting his shots, but it was more so how easy he made the game for Kawhi and Paul, because now Kawhi is just getting to his spots, and Kawhi had his best field goal percentage ever, which is saying a lot because that dude is usually efficient. Paul George off the ball is a scary dude, because he is incredibly skilled, but he gets worn down when he has to have increased ball handling responsibility. Well, all that ball handling responsibility went to James. And then James unlocked the pick and roll game as far as the roll. Like, the Clippers love to, and you saw this in the series in 2021, the way Tyronn Lue plays. When every team runs a variation of pick and roll, ball screen action. But when the Clippers do it, it's small pick and roll so that they can attack the mismatches.
Yep.
But what James allows you to do is you can attack the mismatches, but you can also do this innovative thing where you actually give the ball to the big man in the middle of the floor and let him finish. Like, they didn't have that. They didn't have that. The Vince Zubats ate this year in ways that he's never sat at the table before. And that was huge for them. The worst now James has had a rocky post all-star break period. I feel like the workload, the banging kind of took a toll. Like, when you handle the ball, you make mistakes when guys put more pressure on you. Teams learn if you can turn James over, you get free points, because every James Harden team is known for not getting back on defense.
Yeah.
That has been a factor. How has Tyronn Lue tried to adjust for that? Terrence Mann increased ball handling responsibility. Russell Westbrook, when he got back, they sat James down the entire last quarter and a half when they had to come back from down 26 against the Cavaliers. That was a big thing there. Paul George, ever since the Chicago trip, T. Lue was like, we need Paul to get used to having the ball in his hands more, and that was without any thought to Kawhi's availability status. And obviously James defensively, everyone's going to look at how he has a sordid history of inconsistent effort on that end of the floor. But one thing James is, and this is why I was like, when the Clippers were like, hey, if you need another point guard, I wouldn't consider Chris Paul or Damian Lillard or James Harden would be a better fit for the Clippers than those guys because James is a big body. As much as Chris Paul and Damian Lillard have impenetrable reputations, they're small guards, and Chris ain't the defender he once was, and Damian was a never defender. Like he's never been an asset on that end of the floor. Like Dame fights in one-on-one situation, but he's a small guard. He never gets steals like that. And obviously, even at his stage of his career, he can be a liability. You see what the Bucks are dealing with right now. So with James, he can give you if he's just there and his hands are active, and James has some of the best hands in the league, and he doesn't get credit for that part.
Yeah,
he's competitive, and that's what you want. You just want a guy to be in the right spots, make plays every now and again, and help end possessions. And then you kill teams on the offensive end of the floor by taking care of the basketball. It's really a simple game. James knows it, and James is under the least pressure he's probably had ever since he left Oklahoma City in 2012.
That defensive strategy for Harden sounds very familiar. Sounds exactly what Luka needs to do and what Luka is asked to do basically on that end. Law Murray,
and you can do it. You've
can.
seen him do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's how you get to be the best defense in the league over the last quarter year. You have to participate and not be a liability. And give Luka and Kyrie all the credit, and let's see if they can do it against the personnel of the Clippers.
The series is going to be fascinating. There's so much stuff to unpack. We could sit here for hours. Law Murray of The Athletic. Go read his stories there. Go follow him on Twitter. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.